I'm Peter Westwood, I'm Data Centre Director. There's no real way I fell into the industry, sort of almost by accident. I worked for a company that didn't do data centres, and then all of a sudden they wanted to do data centres, and I was lucky enough to be picked for that team. And I've had the question in the past about, how do I get into data centres? Well, I think firstly you need to work for a company that does data centres, and then there's so many different areas. Obviously I've been working in the infrastructure side of the capital plant, really, and the infrastructure of a data centre, but obviously there's IT, there's manufacturing, there's a lot of dedicated manufacturers to data centres. So there's lots of different areas that, you can actually introduce yourself or get introduced to the industry. We've always had a good core of people within the business, right across the board with experienced guys. My biggest challenges really are trying to get new people and fresh people. Unfortunately, those guys are not going to be around for a long time. They've grown, over the last couple of decades with data centres, having that experience and knowledge for delivery. And it's really how we refresh and bring those youngsters in to start, replacing them and having a bit of a succession plan in the data centre industry with those core skills and gaps. When I'm building a team for a data centre, I look at a mixed bag really of experience. I like the older experience with the guys that have been doing it perhaps 20, 30 years, because you need that to bolster the team. And you need some dynamic, you need some enthusiasm, you need some innovation as well. And that generally comes from some of the younger guys. So it's nice to have a bit of construction background, a bit of design background. I've even had in the past some manufacturing background, which really helps. And then with data centres, one of the key things is integrating all the systems, commissioning it and getting it up and running. The commissioning guys at the end and the sort of completion team, they really need to know, what they're doing. So there's a whole range of skills and experience, and it all depends on the role, that I'm looking for. As I say, I sometimes, need different levels of experience. If I'm looking for a design engineer, then I would be looking for a university graduate or somebody who's trained and got that experience in education, have got the professional qualifications that go with that from a design perspective. But not everybody has to have that. Good engineering skills, and people have come up through the CITB and through the, from the tools, and made very good engineers. And it is about talent spotting and trying to bring people through. It really does depend on the role. As a manager, I've not got professional qualifications. I've come and learnt through experience over 30 years as an engineer, and evolved in data centres that way. But it depends on the role, and I wouldn't really specifically say everybody needs high education, obviously, and I wouldn't necessarily say that people weren't fitted right for a role if they didn't have certain certificates. We do a lot of training in-house. We also send, we bring lots of graduates through our business, apprentices on the tools, graduates, and then they will go on to do, further degrees if that's what they wish to do. Engineers can go on and do sort of further education. Obviously, we do a lot of health and safety training, which is, sort of one of our biggest things. To make people go home safely each day and develop each person as they require. But it's a little bit of a grey area. So there's openings and for all sorts of people coming looking for their careers, whether it's health and safety, whether it's quality, whether it's engineering, whether it's IT or networks. There's so many different avenues into the data centre world, and I absolutely encourage people to come into that industry just for the future and the technology, and for the career that I've had. So it's good, and especially with Highfield, they fully understand the requirement, the different roles. There's many different roles that we need, as I've just explained, and it's good to have somebody who actually understands the experience and skills that person needs to fulfill each role, whether it's an engineer or a project manager or a director or a commissioning manager. It's nice to have an agent that actually knows what those different requirements are and then fulfill those with the right candidates.